Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I once heard a story, and it concerned this sleaze, I think we end up calling him, but he was in court, and his attorney jumped up to address the judge, and he said to the judge, Your Honor, look at my client. He's such an innocent man. He does not beat his wife. He goes to bed on time at night. He does not bribe the police. He obeys all the laws. Halfway through the presentation, Sleaze jumped up and said, Your Honor, it is just not fair. Look at how much money I'm paying this man, and he come here to speak about somebody else. Mr. Chairman, I thank you for your very kind introduction. Mr. President, fellow presenters, participants, good morning. Let me begin by, first of all, commending the master builders, as the minister did, for another annual seminar. I think we'll all agree it is very important for us not just to educate, but to communicate. In fact, at least once a year, we just gather here and we talk. I was hoping that the minister would be here, because construction is really no different from any other sector. It's no different from football or cricket or manufacturing or politics. The more you do, the better you become. Master builders' growth remains the same year after year. Unless local contractors get the chance of participating in local projects, of practicing and practicing and practicing, we will remain the same. That's the contention we have. And we know the requirements of the World Bank and the financial agencies. But when you take a pre-qualification documents, Mr. Chairman of NCC, that says to build a building at the airport, Norman Manley Airport, you must have built a building at an airport before. When we only build one or two airports, then you know that Jamaicans don't stand a chance. Today, as you have seen, I'm presenting an effective contract administration, the key to successful construction project. And I'm going to ask Marlon to go to the first slide. I want to give you a little on the construction sector, and I will do my best to finish within the allotted time. But this is one of the largest segments of business, not only in Jamaica, but in the entire world. Construction in Jamaica over the last 10 years or so, this expenditure average about $1 billion US. It is one of the greatest contributors to the country's GDP, I think approximately 9%, and employs from 2005 to now, and I think 85,000 up to 110,000. 2005 to 06, that figure was about 115, 120,000. Today, it is about 85,000. It is the realization phase of the civil engineering process following conception and design. And it is the role of the contractor, our role, turn the ideas of the owner, the planner, and the designer into physical reality. And as we note in recent times, in fact, in my time, go back 30, 40 years ago, you had some little small projects, but today construction projects are now becoming larger and larger. Highway 2000, North-South Link, and other projects, and more complex and time-consuming, requiring the interaction of the many different persons to accomplish. All projects must be completed in accordance with specific plans and specifications and other construction restrictions such as soil type, weather conditions, human resource factor, and of course you have to deal with your local friendly and sometimes unfriendly politicians. In manufacturing, as is so different from construction, you bring things to a factory and you fence the site, a 12-foot, 20-foot fence, and place 2 security guards at the entrance to the site. Not so for construction. You might be working on a 20-mile stretch of road or a 300-acre infrastructure development in Longville. We have to deal with it. It is this diversity that makes the preparation and implementation of the civil engineering projects so interesting and so challenging. Despite all of this, it is our duty to predict and manage the possible situations that may be encountered and to develop contingency strategies accordingly. Essential, at the bottom of the slide, essential to all of this is effective administration of the contract. So let's now look at what is contract administration. It is the monitoring and enforcement of the terms of the contract, and this involves numerous daily decisions that are based on interpretation of the contract document. And frankly, you have to take contract administration from 2 perspectives. The client perspective. Client contract administrator usually coordinates the activities of the consultant and the contractors, approval agencies, and of course communicate with the client. The contractor administrator, usually the project manager. And I'll touch a little bit on what both roles are. The contract administration generally include invitation and processing of tenders. That's usually what the client contract administrator does. Preparation of contract documents. Seeking instruction from the client in relation to the project. Issuing instructions such as variations, use of prime cost sums, etc. Evaluation of claims, preparation of progress reports, reporting to the client, issuing payment certificates, and completion certificates. What then are the goals of contract administration? And regardless of the size or complexity of the project, the objective is the same on both sides. Cost, to complete the project within the budget. Time, to complete the project within the contract period. Quality, to perform all work meeting or exceeding the specifications. Safety, complete the project with 0 accident and conflict. Complete the project with 0 dispute. From the contractor's side, cost engineering and proper costing remains one of the most important functions in any project implementation. The contractor's involvement really starts at tender stage. And no matter how well managed and how well organized and how qualified that manager is, it will be difficult to have a smooth operation, as it will affect the supply of the resources. He will simply not be able to provide the resources to do the job properly. And these resources, of course, material, suitable equipment, and properly qualified and experienced staff. Planning and scheduling for the contractor. This is another very important area for the construction process that is equally important in determining the success or failure of the project. Activities must be planned and directed to obtain optimum project performance. And this involves the logical analysis of the project, giving due consideration to the constraints and available resources. As I said before, material, equipment, human resources, weather consideration, financial consideration, and of course, the social and political situation. And that is particularly important, especially in Jamaica, of making adjustment to plans as time goes by. Other important consideration for the contractor is equipment planning and management. Main cost element in any contract is material, labor, equipment, and overheads. Equipment in civil engineering works range from, I would think, 20 to 60%. Hence, I think you can see the importance of proper selection of equipment and ensuring that the equipment produced properly. Knowing when, for example, to use an excavator instead of a D8 or a bulldozer. And a bulldozer working hard is not necessarily producing at an optimal level. And I want to tell you my own experience on the Negril to Montego Bay Highway. And the operator presently works for me. I had a whole series of bulldozer working, and I check what they do on a daily basis. At the end of the day, I check the Caterpillar manual, what it should produce. They were producing anything like 40 to 50% of what they should produce, but the guys were working very hard. I stayed there for a day, and what did I notice? The man goes to the bathroom, very simple, 5 minutes. 3 hours later, he goes to get some water, 5 more minutes. You add those 5 minutes when you have 20 bulldozers, each of them earning $8,000 per hour. So each time he goes and gets a glass of water, that's 12 into 8,000, whatever that is, 60, is it 60? 600? $600 every time he drinks water. Now, I've always, in talks with my fellow contractors and in my own office, try to explain to them the importance of. So what did I do? I simply called the operator. He works for me presently. And I said, listen to me, this is what the Caterpillar manufacturers say you should produce. What I will do, every month when I measure the work along with the standing consultant from a foreign, you will measure with me. And every time you make the Caterpillar target, I pay you 2 times what your boss pay you. It was rented machine. And he became one of the wealthiest operators because the machine suddenly produced as per the manufacturer specs. How do we achieve the above goals on a successful project? First, establish and implement the contract terms. And as I said, that generally is the role of the client contract coordinator. Because projects are considered successful when the work is done to the required specs, within the budget, within the agreed time frame, and of course, the contractors make fair returns for his effort. And I'm happy one of the major clients is here, and I'm sure he'll agree with me, Mr. Donald, that both sides to succeed must see what they're working for in a fair way. If these criteria are not achieved, one of the parties is likely to be dissatisfied and will lead to dispute. And I will speed up because I have to give you a couple of examples of these disputes. And success is unlikely when, one, the construction period is too short. And secondly, a very vexed issue, too low tender, Mr. Chairman of NCC, too low tender is accepted. Just can't fund the project. The contract administrator must therefore guide the client, Mr. Donald, in establishing realistic terms and contract conditions. Having established these terms, he must now enforce them in a fair and an impartial manner. I have to leave some of these judgments to you to decide whether we, the industry in Jamaica, operate in as fair a manner as it should be, and what leads to a lot of the conflicts that I will try and outline. The administrator must be aware of his responsibilities. Contract place responsibilities on the contractor's party. Good contract administration will ensure that the parties are aware of their obligations. The administrator must encourage each party to deal with problems expeditiously and resolve them as allowed in the contract. Communication. Good communication is essential in ensuring information is issued in a timely manner. This will allow work to proceed as programmed and minimize delays, minimize claims, etc. Timely communication will allow both sides to apply the most desirable method of overcoming related problems. Late communication is likely to result in time delays, additional costs, which in turn leads to wanting, claims, and dispute. Very important for the coordinator or the administrator to confront and resolve problems. Reluctance to confront problems often leads to more problems. Early attempts to deal with problems usually allow for alternate methods to be used to execute the work. We find consultants and contractors in Jamaica, and you might forgive me for being so blunt, is that time they try to ignore the problem or reject legitimate claims simply because they do not want to upset our very valued client. What we do find, however, that dispute will have to be resolved sooner or later, and it is much better to deal with them at an early stage so that problems can be least minimized. And I'm going to just briefly give you a couple because I don't want to run out of time before giving you some examples of very vexed contract issues because of what we believe are faulty contract administration. I think years ago, UDC attempted to build, the Portmore Shopping Center. The company, was L.I. Chang, having, $15 million worth of work to complete the project. Project, I'm told, was terminated in a vexatious manner without due consideration. Client ended up paying $25 million on a project that required $15 million to complete. NWA versus YP Seaton in St. Mary. These are public projects. Vex issue, inadequate specs, $25 million over and above the bid. CDA versus UDC, claims still unresolved. It's presently in excess of 3 billion Jamaican dollars. And project presently in Mid-Clarendon, I think of all fairness to the contractor since it's still under discussion, inadequate specification, poor soil report, geotechnical information, claim of $150 million. And I want to tell you, 75% of all arbitration and adjudication claims in Jamaica, contractors end up winning. And presently there are several claims, several contractors versus the National Works Agency, and I hope some representative here, and China Harbor. And these claims, I'm told, is in excess of $2 billion. NWA versus Phil and Sons, Ocho Rios to Port Antonio Highway. 15 million US was paid to settle construction dispute. I could go on and on and on. I don't want to call the names because I would need permission from a lot of these clients and the contractors to give you the details of these claims. And as I said, some of these are still going on. But a very famous one was Bosong Engineering, from Negril to Montego Bay. That project started at since I was the local partner in the deal, that project started at 25 million US. Contract was terminated. It ended up costing $50 million. Due, in my own assessment, to faulty contract administration, faulty data to begin with. The earthworks moved from, 500,000 cubic yard to something like 2 million cubic yard. The soil stabilization using geotextile end up costing, I think, another 20-30 million over and above what was budgeted. Again, faulty information. So what then makes a good contract administrator? In order to achieve the above, the objective, administrator must be competent, he must be resolute, he must be objective, and he must be a team player. He must be competent in order to gain the respect of those he deals with and discourage the abuse of authority and situation likely to lead to unnecessary dispute. He must be resolute to ensure the matters are dealt with as required by the contract. He must be objective, that within the contract parameters, the interests of both the contractor and the client are balanced. And this is the administrators appointed by the client. And finally, he must be a team player. For however good he is, and several clients seem to find that out, he cannot achieve this task of completing the project without the cooperation of the contractor. Contract form is no substitute for good contract administration. And this is very important for us to understand. Because what we find happening in Jamaica, as construction becomes larger and more complex, so does the potential for problems increase. Many clients, many clients, after problems have arisen, conclude that the contract conditions, the tried and proven contract conditions that has existed for 100 years are inadequate, and that additional conditions could have avoided these problems. Hence, more and more of our clients instruct their consultant to alter or add new conditions. And when you look at the contract, there's a section marked particular applications, hoping to tilt the scale in their favor. So what happened? You have extended payment period. One contract that we looked at, a 90-day contract, had the payment period as 56 days. 56 days. The client had up to 56 days in which to make payment on a contract. But clients just don't quite understand that they are the owner of the project and the contractor is a partner in the deal. So even when you finish, 3 months later, you're still trying to get paid. Reduce mobilization payment. I think the government recommended a 10% mobilization. There are government departments, are government-affiliated institutions that somehow changed that to 5% because they figure the contractors perhaps getting too rich, too fast, and have to slow them down. This exists as we speak. A very vexed issue, exclusion of contractors, are, I don't want to call it intimidation of contractors. The exclusion of contractors should they threaten legal action to resolve thorny issues. I just thought that was the fairest way to deal with contract. If you can't resolve it sitting on a table, you go to the courts, and we should have. But suddenly you find that you can't bid again with these agencies because you have decided to take the matter to court. Of course, it's better than an OK Carroll citation. Ridiculous interest payment for late honoring of payment claims. These are just some of the issues, some of the points used by the client in moving away. Well, you know why I'm searched here. My documentation as presented to me by my team. Miss this one. But what we find, regardless regardless of how we operate, altering the contract terms can only lead to more problems of adjudication, more problem of arbitration. And as I said earlier on, 75% of all adjudication claims in Jamaica, the contractors end up being the winner. Next slide, please. Okay. In concluding, good and effective contract administration is essential to the success of construction project. It should serve to ensure that both the client and the contractor understand and uphold the contract, that information is communicated effectively, and that potential problems are dealt with. A good contract administrators present will be felt by the team as a supportive, and I want to stress supportive. And I don't want to put two vexed issues on the table, but there are so many, to make this presentation today, I randomly called 3 very respected construction firms. And they could go through, they said, listen, if you work with consultant X, expect problems. From day one. So from day one, the contractor is aware, and the first thing he starts to do is to defend himself by looking at ways to make claims to defend himself. If there's an error in the design, the consultant will find a way to put it on your desk. So you simply, that's 3 firms. And 50% of all of those projects run by some companies in Jamaica end up in adjudication. Simple matters that can be dealt with. So a good contract administrator present will be felt by the team as a supportive and driving force in meeting the contract goals. Similarly, a poor contract administrator will more than likely negatively impact the project outcomes and result in additional costs to both the contractor and the client. And before I give you one more story, and this is very current. These are public institutions that we are dealing with. 10 years ago, and I won't name the institution, there was a project somewhere in eastern Jamaica where the contractor made a claim. I think the claim was for 20 million. The client ended up paying off the order of 25 to 30 million of a 20 million claim. Contractor later on put in a bill for $1 billion. 700 million was recommended by the adjudicator. Of course, the client protests. It goes to the local Supreme Court. I think the contractor won. Then it ended up with the Privy Council, and the client ended up winning. What happened in this case? Poor contract administration. They both lost because they both end up paying the Privy Council way in excess of the 20 million, where if there was a good, experienced contract administrator, you would have resolved the thing on a month-by-month basis. Project claims must be dealt with on a timely basis and in accordance with the terms of the contract. I think my time is up, Mr. Chairman. 2 minutes. It says 2 minutes, so I just want to use the 2 minutes to bring a couple more points that we find very troublesome for contractors. Inadequate design, poor geotechnical information, And I can give you 2 quick examples. Project in Mid-Clarendon. What does the spec say? What does the contract say? Soft rock easily removed by a DA tractor. If you get to that site and you have to blast, and a D9 can't do the work, you have to bring in a D10. I just believe you sit with the contractor and hammer out a price. But you end up going to arbitration and you end up paying $275 million more. Another point, most of us bid, what does the document say? And I can tell you a project. Negril, Norman Manley Boulevard. The document says no rock, the borehole, it says no rock, and the work will be done above the water table level. You go inside, the first day, you're in water. What does the consultant say? They say, it might have said that, but a good contractor should have known that you can't work in Negril and there's no water. But it's, other one, fine print is there. The contractor must check the accuracy of the drawing. So what does the document say? It says 350 square meter of floor area. That's what it says. You go to implement the job, it's 350 meters square area, but the drawing that you saw says 6-inch slab. But there's another drawing, which was intended drawing, that says 8-inch slab. What does the client say? The client say it is your responsibility that you should have checked the drawing and point out the error. But you only have 3 weeks to bid. And the other drawing about the geotechnical information, it says the contractor must verify the soil condition. How do you verify the soil condition on a site that is 300 acres in 2 to 3 weeks? Not possible. And before I say, Mr. President, and I want to discussion on it. Inadequate drawings. We have sent teams, my own company, I can use my example, and I know companies here, to St. Lucia, to Dominica, to Trinidad. And you pick up a set of documents, and what do? You go build the thing. Projects, this is in my office, 165 million. 90 million of that 165 is provisional. The clients must understand the responsibility of the contractor. We built instruction. They must insist that the other side, their coordinating team, produce to make sure that there can be an efficient construction sector. Road project in Jamaica. You're going to do a 10-mile road. The clients forget to put in the leveling course. What happened? The contractor is worried about his reputation. So what the contractor do is say, listen, I prefer to lose than to hear that I mess up a road. And the contractors put in the thing at the moment. We have to understand the role of the contractor and the role of the client. Contractors built to instruction. So I hope we talked a little. We can talk later on during the question and answer period. I just want to thank you for your very kind attention, and let's move in the future as a united team. I thank you.
Thank you very much, the Don Mullins. Our next presenter presents the consultant's perspective on contract administration. He's a registered architect. He is the managing director of APEC Consultants Limited. He's a fellow of the Jamaican Institute of Architects. He was formerly chairman and is currently a member of the Architects Registration Board. He was one of the first commissioners appointed when the NCC was established. He served for 7 years between 1999 and 2006. He has since been recalled to the NCC since 2010 and is currently serving as that body's chairman. He attended Sheffield University, where he gained a Bachelor of Architecture, Bachelor's in Architecture and a Master of Arts. I could have foregone all the foregoing that I've said to you and just simply say to you, he's a graduate of Jamaica College. And that would have sufficed. Mr. Raymond McIntyre, please address us.